Today we are starting the chapter on mental factors or Chetasikas, the second chapter of the Abhidhamma Sangha. So if you would turn to page number 76, we can start. I have received an email from one of our participants requesting that we slow down a bit. That we slow down a bit. So let us slow down. I'm sure others would share the similar sentiments. So we will slow down a bit, right? We will slow down, and we will also read from the book as we go along, because I'm guessing that many of you who are juggling many roles in the house and at work might not have the time to read the book. So we will read the book and we will slow down a bit and try to cover the ground as effectively as we possibly can, right? So page number 76. Chapter 2, Compendium of Mental Factors, Chitta, Chetasika Sangha Vibhaga, Ekupad Nirodha Cha, Eka Lambana Vattukar, Cheto Yutta Dvipanyasa Dhamma Chetasika Mata. So this starting verse of the Chetasikas refers to the very natures which we refer to Chetasika as, the mental factors. The 52 states associated with consciousness that arise and cease together, with consciousness, that have the same object and base as consciousness, are known as mental factors, right? So this is your definition of Chetasika, right? So maybe you would like to mark it so that you will be better prepared for our Chetasika revision class or Chetasika revision class, right? So 52 states, we have 52 types of Chetasika Dhammas, mental factors. The first quality of these Chetasikas is that they arise and pass away together with consciousness. They arise and passes away together with consciousness. They have the same object and base as consciousness, right? The same object and base as consciousness. This is what makes a Chetasika. This is what we refer to as a Chetasika, right? States associated with consciousness, Cheto Yutta Dhamma. The second chapter on the Abhidhamma Sangha, is devoted to the classification of the second type of ultimate reality, the Chetasikas or mental factors. The Chetasikas are mental phenomena that occur in immediate conjunction, right? That word is very important. Immediate conjunction with Chitta or consciousness, and assist Chitta by performing more specific tasks in the total act of cognition. The mental factors cannot arise without Chitta, nor can Chitta arise completely segregated from the mental factors. But although the two are functionally independent, Chitta is regarded as a primary because the mental factors assist in the cognition of the object depending upon the Chitta, right? Depending upon the Chitta. This we can connect to the first Dhammapada Gatha as well. Mano Pubbhangama Dhamma Mano Sekta Manomaya, which says that the consciousness is the forerunner in all things. In all things. Now, with regard to that, this consciousness, although it says that they arise together. The Chetasikas, this connection or connectivity process happens so intimately fast that the mental factors arise at the same time as consciousness, but although they arise at the same time, its base becomes the object which is determined or taken in by consciousness, right? Taken in by consciousness, which is a principal cognitive element. The consciousness is a principal cognitive element. The relationship between Chitta and the Chetasikas is compared to that between a king and his retinue. Although one says the king is coming, the king does not come alone, but he always comes accompanied by his attendants. Similarly, whenever a Chitta arises, it never arises alone, but always accompanied by its retinue of Chetasikas. In the compendium of mental factors, Acharya Anuruddha will first enumerate all the mental factors in their appropriate classes. Thereafter, he will investigate the mental factors from the two complementary points of view. The first of these is called the method of association, Sampayoganaya. This method takes the mental factors as a basis of inquiry and seeks to determine which types of chitta each mental factor is associated with. The second point of view is called the method of Sangaha. This method takes the chitta as primary and seeks to determine for each type of chitta, which mental factors are combined within. Right? Now, this speaks about the Sampayoga Sangaha method. It is a way of determining, or a technique of determining the connection or the relation between the chittas, the consciousness, and the chetasikas, the mental factors. Right, the mental factors. So it is a very important technique that we have to go through. That is why we did 2 days of consciousness revision, so that we will be better prepared for this endeavor that we will have to face at the end of the mental factors chapter. Right, at the end of the mental factors chapter. Right. Now, let's look down to the Ekupada, Eka Nirodha, Eka Lambana, and Eka Bhaktuka, right? Which are the factors, or which makes a mental factor that arise and cease together with consciousness. The first verse defines the mental factors by way of 4 characteristics that are common to them all. First, they arise together with consciousness, Ekupada. Second, they cease together with consciousness, Eka Nirodha. Third, having the same object as consciousness, Eka Lambana. Fourth, having the same basis as consciousness, Eka Bhaktuka. Now remember, in the future, when we are also doing our revision regarding Chetasikas, this is very important, because certain questions are going to be asked mentioning or on the lines of whether it arises together, whether it has the same base, right? So do sort of jot that down in your mind. Jot that down in your mind as a point of information that is quite important. These 4 characteristics delineate the relationship between the chitta and its concomitant chetasikas. If only arising together were mentioned, the definition would include wrongly as chetasikas those material phenomena that arise together simultaneously with the chitta. That is, material phenomena produced by the mind and by karma, right? So Basically, when you are asked to define a Chetasika, just saying that it arises together is not sufficient, because there are other phenomena which arise together with consciousness, right? Which arises together with consciousness. So it is very important that we say it arises together, it ceases together, it has the same object, and it has the same base, right? That is very important. So when I would ask you to define Chetasika, you should say this, right? Or you could just memorize or try to understand the first verse that we read out, right? That is quite important. Now, however, these material phenomena do not perish at the same time as the co-arisen chitta, but mostly endure for 17 mind moments. 17 mind moments. Thus, to exclude them, the characteristic ceasing together is introduced. Now, remember, when we go through consciousness, we'll be revisiting this specific title again, where in consciousness, a consciousness moment is known as a chittakana, right? A chittakana. So with regards to mind moments, which is used as a way of measure in Abhidhamma, Chittakana includes 3 sections of time, which is the arising, the processing, and the passing away. In Pali, we refer to this as Upada, Titi, Banga. Upada, Titi, Banga. Now, usually the most traditional manner of referring to Pada Titi Banga is now, even when we learned, right, we were usually, it was drawn something like this, where it arises and then it processes and it passes away, right? But in reality, when you would take, or when you would sort of scrutinize this chart, because it is quite important to see, even if we do take this chart, right, or this graph, or whatever you would call it, you would see that the energy starts as at a level of energy, right? But rather than that energy being at that moment, people also deal the chart like this, right? Where the arising happens here, and then we go through a process where the energy declines and then it passes away, right? So there are different ways how we can see this energy process that happens in a consciousness. But know that there is a flow of energy, right? There is a flow of energy for sure. And energy, it is said that it takes at least 1 mind moment for an object to come into a stage of maturity, where now this object can create a significant change in the mind. Meaning, by significant change, meaning where it can be used within a mental process, where we understand its object, or we understand, or we experience the effects of that object to a certain caliber, right? We will be revisiting that, but just have in mind that when, for example, let's say, okay, you're sleeping and someone comes and wakes you up, right? You don't wake up all of a sudden, although it might seem so. A mind moment, this sensation of sort of tapping or rubbing of the skin or whatever it is, has to mature for 1 mind moment for the object to now come into a state of grasping, where it can create some sort of mental change, or where it is now mature enough to be used in a process of mental conditioning, right? So when it comes to the lifetime of a material phenomena, it is 17 times more than a mind moment. That is why we say 17 mind moments. Do you understand? So for a consciousness to arise and pass away, it takes one mind moment. Upada titi banga, arising, possessing, passing away. For the physical phenomena to arise and pass away, it takes 17 mind movements. 17 mind movements. It is to then create a sense of specialty for the Chaitasikas, that it arises together with consciousness and it passes together with consciousness, is included within the description of the Chaitasikas. Within the description of the Chaitasikas, right? Now, again, there are two material phenomena, bodily intimation and vocal intimation, which arise and cease together with consciousness. However, these material phenomena do not take any object, and this distinguishes mental phenomena. Both Chitta and Chaitasikas, right, from material phenomena, all mental phenomena experience an object, right? Now, what is vocal intimation and bodily intimation? Bodily intimation is any activity which is done through the body. Vocal intimation is where the speaking happens, right? Where the speaking happens. Although we see the mouth, the tongue as a part of the body, it seems that when it comes to consciousness, the vocal performance is somewhat different to the performance we have physically, right? The performance of the vocals, the frequencies which allow speech to happen effectively, seems to be somewhat different from the processes of the body, which allows us to move, to walk, to jump, to sit down, right? So that is what it is saying. That is what it is saying when it comes to these material phenomena, right? There are material phenomena which arises and then passes with the object, with consciousness, but the the physical intimation or the vocal intimation does not take, or there are no materials which takes the same object as the consciousness, right? Why? Because the body is like a puppet almost, right? A puppet of the mind. It's controlled by the mind. It doesn't take an object. It doesn't have a mind of its own, right? This is what it is saying, right? I hope that all of you understand, right? The page number is page number 77. I hope that all of you understand. Please do not hesitate to jump in and disturb, sort of interject, not disturb, but rather interject and ask a question anytime. Veera, do you have a question? Okay, hold on. Yes, Veera.
Yeah, what's the Pali word for bodily intimation?
The Pali word for bodily intimation is we will come to that.
Okay, yeah.
The Pali word. Vohara. Kaya vinyatti, vachi vinyatti.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Kaya vinyatti.
Yeah.
Right. Is that all, Veera?
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So page number 77. Finally, from material phenomena, all mental phenomena experience an object. Co-arisen Chitta and Chaitasikas experience the same object, while material phenomena do not experience any object at all. No objects do they experience together, right? Thus, the third characteristic is stated, that of having the same object. Finally, in those realms in which the aggregate of material form is found, the sensuous world and the fine material world, the chitta and its chetasikas have the same physical base. That is, they arise with a common support of either one of the material sense organs or the heart base. This is a fourth characteristic of Chetasikas. This is the fourth characteristic of the Chetasikas. So when it comes to the process of rebirth itself, the Chetasikas and the consciousnesses arise depending on the same physical base, right? On the same physical base. It will not arise on two different bases, Now, this is a confusing area. When we think about conjoined twins, right? Conjoined twins, whether they have two hearts. Do conjoined, let's ask the doctor. Who are the doctors here? Dil is a doctor. Dil, unmute your mic, Dil, support us. Dil. Dil, are you going to unmute your mic for us?
Yeah, it took me some time. Okay.
So Dil, do conjoined twins have two hearts or one heart?
Tell you, Bhante, I'm not quite sure. I think some of them can have one, but I can't tell definitely have one heart, I think, but I'm not 100% certain to tell you. I'll have to look it up and tell you, or you can ask someone else.
Okay. Because I remember, because when it comes to the Chetasikas, we have these questions. Okay, when we talk about the same base, when we talk about the same base, okay, if they have two hearts, then whose karmic effects are we then talking about? Then we can say, okay, the karmic effects are not shared, but rather it is similar or in parallel to one another, right? But then when we come into the Chetasikas, there is for example, how the process of conditioning happens. It seems then that both the body is then shared in terms of conditioning between, if they do have two hearts, if they have two hearts, if they have one heart, that is when sort of, so Damsir, I can see you sort of shaking your head.
Yeah, when you sometimes you can have conjoined twins, two separate hearts, right? And sometimes they can have a common heart, but two heads.
Two heads.
Yeah. So if you have a common heart and two heads, still their thought process and thinking patterns are too different.
So if they have a common heart, is the common heart frame similar as a single heart, or is it?
Yeah, single heart.
It's a single heart. So then we have a confusion there, how one could think two different things with one heart. Right? How one could think two different things with one heart, where the personality characteristics can be very different from one another. So these are complications that we currently don't have answers to with the limited amount of information that we have through the Abhidhamma, right?
Yeah.
So,
but there's an explanation for that.
Good, Veera. Tell us the explanation now.
Explanation is, it's actually when they say Hade Vastu, it doesn't mean the heart. It means blood circulation. Yeah. Right? So that means when the common blood goes to the two heads, somehow you create two different consciousness.
The seat of mind, the seat of mind, the main, what it says is that the mind or the heart base refers to the mind which arises based on a physical holding of blood within the heart somewhere, right? But the thing is, now, if then there must be two separate energies arising based on the same grounding of blood.
That's right. Yes.
Right. So it is not specifically something that has been explained. It is not something that has been explained explained in the Abhidhamma. With regards to yes, so it is not something that has been explained in the Abhidhamma, how that sort of occurrence can happen. So I think it is only a notion that we can sort of give, maybe this is the way it would happen, or this is the way that it would happen. So let's see.
Because Bhante, you can get, most of them are centrally connected, few from the head. So there is no one entity called conjoined, sometimes from the head, some heart, one pelvis, one liver, the central organs. So there are different, obviously the heart, the Hadevasthu is different, and if it is the brain, is different. So there will be different things, because you can get twins connected by the head, by the heart, by the liver, or any of the central organs. So it will be different. It will be different in there.
Bhante, may I come in?
Yes, of course.
Conjoined twins with single heart, they don't survive well. Most of them die in the utero. Very few, it's about 30% are born, but they die within a day. So I don't know how that would apply with what we are discussing. Conjoined twins with other organs shared, can survive, but with single heart, it appears, they don't survive much, really.
Okay, it's very different. But the thing is, even if they survive for a moment, the survival process is then a question.
Sure, yeah.
Bhante, I think if you search YouTube, you might have some cases in India where they are grown up with two heads and one body. I have seen that one. I have seen a couple of YouTube clips, actually, with grown up people, one body and two heads. So there's a possibility. Even what you say is, even if they have lived for hours, we'll say, but still the case is possible.
And it's a question of how it does actually happen. All right, let's move on. So 52 mental factors, right? Now we are first going through the ethically variable factors, which are 13 in number, page number 77, last end, and then moving on to page number 78. Now, Katham, right? Now this is the universals, the ethically variable Anya Samana Chetasikas are 13. The first subject of these 13 is or are the universals. Now the universals arise in all consciousnesses. They arise in all consciousnesses. Now let us look at what this is. Katham Passo Vedana Sanya Chetana Ekagata Jivita Indriyang Mansikaro Chati Satime Chetasika Sabba Chitta Sadharana Nama. Now what is this? Contact, feeling, perception, volition, one-pointedness, mental life faculty, attention. These 7 mental factors are termed universals, common to every consciousness, common to every consciousness. Right. Now, when it comes to guide to para 2, the 52 mental factors, the Abhidhamma philosophy recognizes 52 Chaitasikas, which are classified into 4 broad categories, as may be seen in table 2.1. We will come to that. First is the 7 universals. Second is the 6 occasionals. Third is the 14 unwholesome factors. And fourth is the 25 beautiful factors. Now, let us just go down to page number 79 to look at the table. Now you see the ethically variable, right? The ethically variable factors. You have the universals, which are 7, and the occasionals, which are 6, right? Contact, feeling, perception, volition, one-pointedness, life faculty, attention are Chaitasikas, are the 7 Chaitasikas which are known as the universals. They arise in each and every consciousness, each and every consciousness. It is, these seem to be paramount to all consciousness processes to occur, right? To occur. Now, coming back up to page number 78, the ethically variable factors, Anya Samana Chaitasika. The first 2 categories of mental factors, the 7 universals and the 6 occasionals, are united under the designation Anya Samana, freely rendered here as ethically variable, Anya Samana. The expression literally means common to other, right? Anya is other, Samana is common, Anya Samana, common to other. The non-beautiful chittas are called other, Anya, in relation to the beautiful chittas, in relation to the beautiful chittas. And the beautiful chittas are called other, in relation to the non-beautiful chittas. The 13 Chaitasikas, of which 2 categories are common, Samana, to both beautiful and non-beautiful, Anya Samana, right? Common to both the beautiful consciousnesses and the consciousnesses that are not beautiful. Here say that it arises with wholesome and unwholesome, right? Wholesome and unwholesome. And assume the ethical quality imparted to the chitta by other Chaitasikas, particularly the associated roots, which means these Chaitasikas take up the ethical qualities enforced by the consciousness that has taken the object. Enforced by the consciousness that has taken the object, right? Now, for example, when we look at the occasionals, if you come down to the page number 79 and you look at the occasionals, you find, for example, you find initial application and sustained application. Initial application and sustained application. Now you would understand that initial application and sustained application arises in each and every consciousness that arises in the mind. But initial application and sustained application, when performed or practiced in a certain way, are jhana factors, right? Are jhana factors to say that the ethic or the value or the roots of whatever consciousness that arises influences the Chaitasikas, or the Chaitasikas take up the qualities that the chittas have arisen by, right? That the chittas have arisen by. In page number 78, back to the paragraph, in wholesome chittas, they become wholesome. In unwholesome chittas, they become unwholesome. And in karmically indeterminate chittas, they become karmically indeterminate. I mean, that's simple, right? That's simple. For this reason, they are called common to the other. That is ethically variable, right? Ethically variable. This is like, for example, think of water. If you would pour water into a nice vase, it will take the shape of the vase. If you pour water into a mug, it will take the shape of the mug. Whatever the shape of the container is, the water will fill its shape out, right? Similarly, the Chetasika will just act to support the consciousness however it would arise. Whatever ethic it would take up, the Chetasikas would support it 100% and fall in line, just like the water, right? Just like the water. Now, the universals. Sabba Chitta Sadharana. Sabba, all Chitta consciousness, Sadharana, common, right? To all consciousness. The 7 universals are the Chetasikas common, Sadharana. To all consciousness, Sabba Chitta, these factors perform the most rudimentary and essential cognitive functions, without which consciousness of an object would be utterly impossible, right? That is also very clear. Now, we are looking at the first, phassa, or contact. The word phassa is derived from the verb phusati, right? Phusati, meaning to touch, The root of this word is phus, P-H-U-S, right? P-H-U-S, which means to touch. But contact should not be understood as a mere physical impact of the object on the bodily faculty. It is rather the mental factor by which consciousness mentally touches the object that has appeared, thereby initiating the entire cognitive event. This is a process where the mind, or the impingement of the mind and the object takes place, or this is the Chetasika, which focuses on the Chetasika, which focuses on the impingement factor, the impingement of the mind and the object, the touch between the mind and the object, right? Mind and the object. In terms of the fourfold defining device used in the Pali commentaries, contact has a characteristic of touching. Its function is impingement, and as it causes consciousness and the object to impinge, its manifestation is the concurrence of consciousness, sense faculty, and the object. Its proximate cause is an objective field that has come into focus. Now, that is very important. Its proximate cause is an objective field that has come into focus. This will be very much clearer when we come to the chapter on Chitta Viti, right? On the processes of the mind. But what this says is, now just because there are 100 million objects, now if you look around your room, how many things are there? The wood, the paneling, if there's any paneling, the wallpaper, the color of the wallpaper, then the wallpaper is somewhere, sometimes it might have sort of smudges or something like that. The switches. Now these are all objects. But for this moment, you might be focusing on the computer or the screen or the book or whatever we are studying, and all else seems to have disappeared maybe sometimes. Or you're not thinking about it. Sometimes we are absorbed into an event to such an extent that we don't even hear the crying out of a loved one in the house. right? Sometimes we are completely oblivious and we are completely absorbed into what we are doing, right? Into what we are doing. So that is all dependent upon the objective field that has come into the focus. This does not mean that the Chetasikars impinge on each and everything that arises around us in terms of smell, in terms of now if our noses are stuffy and it's blocked, we might probably not smell anything, right? We might probably not smell anything. That is, now the smell is there, but we are unable to take in smell at the moment. If we are ill, if we are sick, feverish, we might sometimes not be able to taste the food. We might not be able to taste the food. Now the taste of the food is there. It's not that the tongue has disappeared, but there is some sort of disturbance. Now in that way, although an object is there, doesn't mean that it will specifically be taken into our grasp or impinged by the mind, right? Impinged by the mind. The second, which is now, that is contact, right? That is contact. Does anyone have any questions with regards to contact? Passa. If you do, please unmute your mic and ask your question. Right. Second, feeling, Vedana, right? Feeling is a mental factor that feels the object. It is the affective mode in which the object is experienced. The Pali word Vedana does not signify emotion, which appears to be complex phenomena involving a variety of concomitant mental factors, but the bare affective quality of an experience, which may be either pleasant, painful, or neutral. Feeling is said to have the characteristics of being felt. The characteristic of being felt, right? Of being felt. Now, what does being felt? Now, that is a very important part to understand. Now, when we say being felt, right? Vedayita. Now, when you say Vedayita or being felt, it focuses on an attitude where the mind is able to feel exactly what the object, the force, the power, or the field that the object creates, right? For example, if I have to brush against the wallpaper, because the wallpaper has a texture, I would feel that texture, right? Now that is an effect, or that is a result of my touch of the wallpaper. If the wall is smooth like a coat of paint, then I would be feeling a smooth, yet I would also be having a texture, right? But now there are times when we feel something, but we don't feel it in the same way that it should be felt. Do we understand that? Sometimes, now I think, okay, meditation would be a good example. Now sometimes when we pour in more energy into a sensation, a painful sensation that we create, if we are dramatizing on a sensation that we are feeling, what happens? We feel the sensation more, the pain increases almost, right? Almost doubling or tripling in intensity, right? Now, what is that? Because we are feeding into the sensation. But in the primary focus of attention, or in the primary focus of the Vedana Chetasika arising, we are able to feel that intensity as it is, right? Now, that is an important bit to understand here. When we meditate, when we now discipline our minds or bring our minds into focus, what happens? what happens? We are able to now see the sensation for the real effect that it really did create in our minds. Whether it be painful or whether it be something which is pleasurable or neutral, right? Or neutral. So we have this sense of being able to come back to base almost, to come back to base rather than sort of throwing 3 slips in the air, right? Now, its manifestation is a relishing of the associated mental factors. The relishing of the associated mental factors. Right? Its proximate cause is tranquility. Its proximate cause is tranquility, whereas the other mental factors experience the object only derivatively, right? Now, what does that mean? When it comes to the sensations, now let us say, the other modes of understanding or sort of coming to know of an object, whether visible or otherwise, we experience it through another base altogether. But when it comes to sensations, we experience the sensations with the direct contact that arises together with the object. The direct contact which arises together with the object. Now, what does that mean? Now, the eye consciousness arises at the eye. We look at something and we see what we see. But the thing is, when it comes to the, let's say, the vision can be altered by a number of factors. Let's say, for the example, the lighting, right? There is someone in front of us, or there's a car in front of us, but we can't see it, or we don't know what it is, or we can't understand what it is, probably because it is dark, probably because maybe there is fog or a mist, probably because other factors can affect what happens or how this rupa arises in the eye. But when it comes to the sensations, it is a direct impingement which occurs. That is what it means. This is a direct impingement that occurs. Feeling experiences it directly and fully. In this respect, the other factors are compared to a cook who prepares a dish for a king and only samples the food while preparing it, while feeling is compared to the king who enjoys a meal as much as he likes. Do we have any questions regarding this? Right? So this is this Chetasika of Vedana is what we literally focus on during our meditation. In terms of we would say in Abhidhamma, we would say Somanasa Sukha, Domanasa Dukupeka. In sutras, we would say Somanasa, Domanasa, Somanasa, Domanasa, Upeka, or Dukkama Sukha, right? So this Vedana Chetasika is what we refer to when we say whatever this feeling is, what we focus on during our meditation, during our time of practice, right? During our time of practice. Shriyani?
Bhante, then when it's the Vedana, when you feel it in your mind, right? How do you explain about that?
Okay. So when you feel Vedana in your mind, so what is the question you have about that?
Like this, the pain that you cannot see or touch.
Yes.
You have to feel it, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes you feel it in your mind, in your heart. You know, the painful something. It's more than touching pain. It's
It's the you feel inside you.
Yeah. Yes. Now, when it comes to pain of the past, or pain which manifests itself through memory, right? Through memory, that feeling is associated with a past experience, a past feeling, together with another concoction of mental factors altogether. So when it comes to feeling of the mind, for example, perceptions is something that has a great amount of gravity when it comes to a feeling or memory of an experience that we have had in the past, right? So when it comes to this Vedana that we are discussing here, right, this Vedana would all be accustomed to both the mental and physical, but the gravity or the mixture of chaitasikas that arise when a mental phenomenon or mental feeling arises is going to be different to when a physical phenomena arises. Right? So for example, now perceptions is going to have a more predominant role when it comes to memorizing or remembering or reminiscing something of the past, right? But when, for example, if I'm touching something or if I feel a tap or something like that, now that is going to have more of the Vedana aggregate becoming predominant. Yes?
Yeah.
All right. So moving on. Yes, Damsiri.
There's a little bit of a controversy here, right?
Yeah.
Because it says the proximity cause can be contact.
Yes.
Yeah. Because tranquility applies only to the
tranquility.
Yeah, applies only to the pleasant feeling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think?
So what do you say about it? You know, because in my notes actually I put proximity cause as contact.
All right. I like to explain this now. When it comes to, now let's say you're really busy. You're really busy with something, right? Or you're really taken up by something, right? And the mind is not at all, the mind is rushing, the mind is not at all where it is or where the body is, right? Something happens around, you don't realize or notice it, right? The proximate cause for a sensation to be felt, right, comes from a place of stability, if we would say. A place where it is not ruffled. Yeah. That is where the proximate cause of tranquility is used. It is not to say, it is a state of, let's say, the peace before the storm almost.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
Something like that, right? Where the mind is calm, it's able to say, right? But it is not really referring to a calmness also. But it is referring to a moment where the mind is able to become aware of the object, whatever the object might be. Right? So because sometimes now, even when we take, now let's say that the object that we are impinging on is a pleasurable object. Even if it is a pleasurable object, if you're going through so much of pain, we can't feel the object. You know, so it is something like that we are referring to here.
Thank you.
Now, Moving on, Sanya. Now, how is this space that we are going at? What do you think about this space that we are going at? Is everyone happy with this space? Now, Devika, what do you think about this space that we are going at? You're not falling asleep over there, are you, with this space? Yeah, Devika, we must unmute your mic. Okay. Yes, Devika.
It's not only thing I'm trying to figure out, because I have all my notes in Sinhala. See, I have done Abhidhamma in Sinhala. I got Bhikkhu Bodhi's book only day before yesterday.
Okay.
So I'm following the English version, and I'm looking at my charts in Sinhala too. So I really understand what is being said.
Yeah, so that
my mind is really alert, I must say.
Really alert.
Yes, very much alert.
What is the time there?
The time now is 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
3 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay.
This is daylight time for me.
Okay.
Daytime.
Good. So I hope now if anyone think it's too fast, please let us know, So the objective is that everyone is able to follow on. So let's move on to perception, Sanya. The characteristic of perception is the perceiving of the qualities of the object. Perceiving the qualities of the object. Its function is to make a sign as a condition for perceiving again that this is the same, or its function is recognizing what has been previously perceived. It becomes manifest as interpreting of the object by way of features that has been apprehended, right? By way of features that has been apprehended. Its proximate cause is the object as it appears. Its proximate cause is the object as it appears. Its procedure is compared to a carpenter's recognition of certain kinds of wood by the mark he has made on each. By the mark he has made on each. Now, what does this mean? Right now, when it comes to Sanya, this is now, for example, we have been taught, conditioned in a certain manner. It is because of this conditioning that we have that we choose to live through the characteristics that we have been brought up in. This is the way we perceive, this is the way that we react, this is the way that we work with the world, right? This is the way that we work with the world as well. Now this learning, right? This now when, or not learning, let's say this, the colors around us, the tables, the chairs, whatever it is, we recognize it through its form or some other sign to say, this must be this, right? This must be this. We use different signs to say, this must be this, right? So, for example, it is like now when we recognize certain foods, right? When we recognize certain foods, we know by the way that it is cut up, by the color of the sauce or whatever it is, we have an idea of what it could be and what it will not be. Right? Now, these are signs that we have created within ourselves to say that this is this, this is this, this is the way this should be perceived, right? But what happens, right? Now, it said, it becomes manifest as the interpreting of the object. We interpret what the object is. We interpret it because we've learned it. We know what it is before. We have data regarding this specific object. Its proximate cause is the object as it appears. As it appears, its proximate cause. So the object is just the sign for the mind to arouse the data or to pull out the data that we already have within us regarding the object and the way the object is, right? Regarding the object and the way the object is. Now, for example, you would take now a good fine leather shoe, right? Now, if we see that there are scratches or that the polish is not so good, we don't feel very attracted to that shoe. But then to a person, for a person who understands how leather should be moisturized, how leather should be taken care of, how you can repolish a shoe, and all of these things, he sees great value in the shoe, right? And this is, I think, a reality to most of us, right? Hoggers, or rather hoarders, who see great amount of value in things that can be reconditioned and repaired. We hoard all of these things, right? But to the person who does not have that knowledge, he will be like, no, I'm going to just throw it away, right? Just throw it away. Because why? The way you're perceiving is absolutely different, because that reminds that person. One who does not know how to polish a shoe would think, how am I going to get that? And that's going to be another expense for me to give it to the shop and get it done. But the person who knows, because there is data in him that would support that action, now he takes up the challenge. Now, in that way, now this perception deals with information that has already been saved, right? Already been saved. Now, with experience, Dhamsiri, do you have a...
I can show you an example whether it's applicable.
Yeah. Tell us.
If I show you this,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Now, if I show you this,
yeah,
you will think it's a pen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's your perception.
Yeah.
But in my perception, it is not a pen. It is a pencil.
It is.
So you see, right?
Absolutely.
So, because everyone has their own perception on certain matters. So that's a good example, yeah?
Absolutely. Good example, Dhamsiri. Yeah. You're clapping because you said, yes, I am a hoarder as well. All right. Thank you, Dhamsiri. Now, good. Now, its procedure is compared to a carpenter's recognition of certain kinds of wood by the mark he has made on each. Now, I think that is quite clear. Moving on, volition, chetana. Now, when it comes to volition, now let's see what it says. Chetana, from the same root as chitta, is the mental factor that is concerned with the actualization of a goal. Concerned with the actualization of a goal. That is the cognitive or volitional aspect of cognition. Thus, it is rendered volition. The commentaries explain that chetana organizes its associated mental factors in acting upon the object. It is the characteristic in the state of willing. Its function is to accumulate karma. Its function is to accumulate karma, right? And its manifestation is coordination. Its proximate cause is the associated states. Its proximate cause is the associated states. Just as a chief pupil recites his own lesson and also makes the other pupils recite their lesson, so when volition starts to work on its object, it sets the associated states to do their own task as well. Volition is the most significant mental factor in generating karma, since it is volition that determines the ethical quality of the action. The ethical quality of the action. Now, what does this mean? Now, we know Chetanaham Bhikkave Kammang Vadami, right? We say that Chetana, right, is what goes into, or Chetana is, volition is Kamma, right? Now, when we have volition, right, volition comes with an exacting amount of force, which says there is a desire for the object that is at hand as well. It is a way that the mind connects with an action or object that it has chosen to impinge on. Chetana, when it arises, we know this will become clearer when we again do the chapter on mental processes. Chetana, when Chetana arises, now, when it comes to the karma developing mental processes, we have 7 javanas or impulsions which vibrates in a mental process, in a general mental process. Now, when Chetana arises, or rather when the karma is being performed, each of the karma or the 7 impulsions are not different from one another. Rather, you would understand when you on something which vibrates, when you on something. Now, let us say one of those old generators that we used to have in Sri Lanka in our homes, where you put the oil and you rip it, where then it works, and then it has it and then and then children like me, we were very scared of the generator. We would not go near it because it made this horrible sound, right? So now you would remember, right? It started with a sort of a you could clearly tell between the sort of the vibrations, and then it unifies and becomes sort of one constant vibration or a constant sound. First, it had this cracking or something which you would say, you would be able to sort of, that it's a rough moment for it, and then it soothes out, right? Similarly to the vibrations in the javanas or the impulsions, that the vibration slowly becomes stronger or more clearer in a way that these vibrations is in a process of maturing, but it has the same object, right? It has the same object. It won't be able to take another object from somewhere else. It will be the same object that the mental process started with, and these impulsions would create Ditta Dhamma Vedaniya kammas and all the other kammas which will even go into or affect a person up until attainment of Nibbana. Right? It is through this javana process that all of that is created. So when it says, when volition arises, it sort of disciplines or coordinates or puts everyone else in line and gets them to do their job. What it means is, now taking the volition, having taken this object as its object, it gets the others to do their job with regard to this object, right? With regard to the primary object that it first took hold of or started impinging upon, right? That is what Chetana does. It sort of aligns everyone to its propaganda, right? Aligns everyone to its agenda, right? That is what this element of volition, does. Now, I think let us read that again, just to be sure and clear. Chetana, from the same root as Chitta, is a mental factor that is concerned with the actualization of a goal. That is the cognitive or volitional aspect of cognition. Thus, it is rendered volition. The commentaries explain that Chetana organizes its associated mental factors in acting upon the object. Its characteristic is a state of willing. Its function is to accumulate karma, and its manifestation is coordination. Its proximate cause is the associated states. Now, what its function is to accumulate karma. Where does karma get accumulated? Right? Karma, the accumulation of karma refers to the karmic energy that we form through these actions, verbal, physical, and mental. Right? Is there some determining factor with regards to when karma arises and passes away? No. Right? The Buddha says that this is the law of karma, or the operation of karma, or the law by which karma operates, is somewhat the Buddha refers to as achintaniya. Right? Where it is very difficult for a person to understand the maze-like ways that karma operates by, because we do not know where karma has actually came from. Why? Because the karma bases that we have might be coming from eons in the past. Right? From eons in the past. So, how does karma, or how do these karma vipakas arise? These karma vipakas arise with great effect. If I say effect, with great connection to what we might be currently doing. Right? For example, a person who might be in a volatile state of mind, right, might experience karmas that put that person into more of a depth of a volatile state, that might push that person more down. The Buddha says that the practice or livelihood under wholesome umbrella protects Dhammo have rakkati dhammachari. The Dhamma protects one. One is protected by the Dhamma that one practices. Right? This also reflects upon the karmas. Right? When one practices the Dhamma, one will not attract bad friends. When one practices the Dhamma, one will not be spending money on alcohol and drugs and things that waste your money. When one practices Dhamma, one will not be more disciplined in ways that one will not open one's mouth in ways that causes trouble. So it protects, the Dhamma protects you. Right? The discipline of Dhamma, that also has an effect upon the karma that we have in our life. Right? The karma that we have in our lives. Right? Karma that we have in our life. Now, does anyone have any questions regarding this? Does anyone have any questions regarding this? All right. Now, let's go to the next one. One-pointedness, ekagata. This is a unification of mind on its object. Although this factor comes to prominence in the jhanas or absorptions, where it functions as a jhana factor, the Abhidhamma teaches that the germ of that capacity for mental unification is present in all types of consciousness, even the most rudimentary. It there functions as a factor which fixes the mind on its object. One-pointedness has non-wandering or non-distraction as its characteristic, non-wandering and non-distraction as its characteristic. Its function is to conglomerate or unite the associated states. It is manifested as peace, and its proximate cause is happiness. Its proximate cause is happiness, right? Now, I think when it comes to the positions in terms of seeing that it is non-wandering or non-distraction that comes or arises as its characteristic, this says a lot about the meditation qualities as well, right? It says a lot about the meditation qualities as well. But ekagata loves a person to know an object, to get to know object to such an extent where now one is able to work with the object, even if it is cutting an onion, working, walking, running, whatever it is. All of these things are done with an object. Right? It is because there is a connection between, and the mind is working with this said object, that we are able to do all the things that we do, right? Do all the things that we do. So in that case, in that way, ekagata is what what unifies the mind and brings it upon one object. It also unites the associated states upon the object, right? It is manifested as peace. It manifested as peace. When the mind is stable, when the mind, that is a good lesson for us. When the mind is stable, when the mind has one thing going on and the mind is fixated upon this thing, right? In a healthy manner, it brings peace. It brings peace. Right? It leaves us in a position where we are focused upon this thing and we are happy with it. And its proximate cause is happiness. Its proximate cause is happiness. Now, I think, do we have any questions regarding this? I think this is a good point to wrap up the session today. Right? Wrap up the session today, to not just overwhelm ourselves, but if anyone has any questions, yes, Buddhika, you can unmute your mic.
Hello, Bhante.
Yes.
It's me, Nihal. I'm trying to comprehend the four salient features of mental factors. Out of that, the fact of ceasing together in with the consciousness.
Yeah.
Now, one mind moment is very brief, and you said this mental factor could last for 17 mind moments. Is that what we said?
Physical phenomena can last for 17 mind moments. The mind or mind moment or anything to do with the mind lasts for one mind moment.
Yeah. So it's not the mental factor.
No.
That lasts for.
No, it is the material. So rupa, right? Rupa lasts for 17 mind moments. Anything to do with the mind. So chitta and chetasika, or consciousness and mental factors, both arise and passes away within one mind moment.
So the mental factor also ceases at one mind moment. So, okay, in that case, why the distinction that saying it got to cease with the mind if it invariably happens?
Well, the thing is, other things also seems to be ceasing with the mind, right? So there are certain, for example, kaya vinyatti and chitta vinyatti, kaya vinyatti and vachi vinyatti seems to also cease when the mind ceases, right? For example, now you won't
Sorry, what are these two features? I'm not familiar.
Yes, I will go. Now, for example, Vachi Vinyati is when you, the act of speaking, right? Bodily, right? Now, you won't be continuing to speak if the mind is somewhere else, right? There is a consciousness process which supports the factor of speaking, right? Now, that is because there are certain other material based factors which also ceases with the mind. That is why then they have having the same object, eka lambana, as the consciousness, as both chitta and chetasika have the same object. The body can never take an object because the body has no mind, right? That is why it goes on to say, so from the first one, it is eliminating other options or loopholes for other phenomena to fit in within this category.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we read through it, Nihal. It is in the note as note. If we do read it, these four characteristics delineate the relationship between chitta and its concomitant chetasikas. If only arising together were mentioned, the definition would include wrongly as chetasikas those material phenomena that arise simultaneously with the chitta, that is physical phenomena produced by mind and by karma, right? However, these material phenomena do not perish at the same time as a co-arisen chitta, but must endure for 17 mind moments. Thus, to exclude them, the characteristic ceasing together is introduced. So you see, right? It is sort of get rid of the options coming into this definition that they have introduced these parts to avoid any sort of confusion that says that there is that the body or the material attributes also equates to same sort of science. Nihal? Okay. So, Nihal, you will find that in the note. You will find that in the note right under that arise and ceases together. And it's quite clear. So, if you go through it in your time, you will understand that. Does anyone else have any questions that they would like to ask?
Sorry, Bhante, I got disconnected, but I will go through that. Yeah, okay.
Please go through the note, Nihal. All right.
Thank you.
So if you do not have any further questions, thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining in today. We will continue the session. Later on. Go through the note. Keep yourself up to date. And I wish you all the very best. Have a pleasant rest of the evening and all the best. There on Sunday. Take care. Goodbye.